The Cincinnati Bengals look to be on the turn, ready to possibly take over the NFL. Yes, I know that's a pretty wild accusation to make, but I do have reason to believe that their young talent could possibly propel them to that situation. They do have an exciting team, and they've moved on from a lot of their veterans over the 2010 era. I mean, most notably, AJ Green is finally gone, so really all their guys from that era, legends of the Bengals, have now moved on. And the team has new faces like Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Jesse Bates, Sam Hubbard, and obviously the number one guy, Joe Barrow. It's a fresh new era of Bengals football, and the Bengals had so much optimism for a while back when Andy Dalton was their quarterback, and then once he left, I mean, things really fell off for a couple of years. Now that they've got Joe Barrow, and despite him getting injured this past season, it still seems like there is a lot of optimism for Bengals fans. Obviously, Joe Barrow is coming back off an ACL injury, and he has made a quick recovery. This is an Ohio guy that wants to be there, which is super important. That's been a huge issue with the Bengals, is guys don't usually want to stay there very long, because honestly, the Bengals are kind of a bit of a minor league team in the NFL. Their ownership is very conservative with their approach. They're also very cheap, so it's not something that appeals to a lot of players. But with this new talent and a quarterback to lead the way, there's a lot of promise there in Cincinnati that really hasn't been there in a while. But before I get into the Bengals, if you could hit that subscribe button, we are giving away a free shirt at the end of every week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel now, and I will get into the details at the end of this video. Now, the Bengals obviously have revealed their new uniforms, and man, oh man, these things are something else. Now, personally, I think the Bengals used to have a lot of great uniforms back during the 80s, and really during the early 2000s when they kind of rebranded, it really wasn't for the best. But their color rush uniform brought back a lot of promise, and really they're one of the last teams that needed to update their uniforms in the NFL because everybody else has done so, especially since going over to Nike, and the Bengals finally made that move. So obviously the Bengals have gone with the redesign. The Paul Brown signature is something that really stood out to me when I looked at the uniforms. That was something that I loved that they did. They have like a bunch of different pant combinations, like on the side paneling on the stripes. They've got orange, they've got black, they've got a bunch of different combinations, which I actually think is pretty unique. The Bengals definitely set themselves up to have so many different types of combination of jersey schemes, more than I can really say for a lot of NFL teams. I love how they simplified the pattern on the shoulders. Reminds me of their retro jerseys. That's something that I love, and my favorite thing that they did was took off the white paneling on the side. That is my favorite part about the new jerseys. Like, just comparing both sides, I mean, it's just such a huge upgrade. Like, that side paneling really was just a mess on the previous uniforms. My biggest issue that I have with the jerseys is that I don't like the Bengals word mark on the jersey. I wish it was just the B like on their old ones. It's not the end of the world. I mean, different teams do this, but it's still one thing that I don't love about the uniforms. However, they're an upgrade. That's the main thing. It's an upgrade over their previous ones. Even if it's not perfect, it's an upgrade. Now, my favorite part about these new uniforms are their away look with the black pants. I think this look is just gorgeous. And I really like their color rush uniforms. I think they're kind of going away from those with these new white uniforms that they have because they've got an all white look. And then we obviously saw Joe Barrow sitting king of the jungle would sit, but the issue is it's very noticeable, that scar from his ACL surgery, and the Bengals have a huge decision to make, how to protect Joe Barrow with his future. I mean, this is their franchise. They have to keep this guy protected. And I really hope they make the right decision, because you don't get a Joe Barrow every couple of years. This is, in my opinion, a generational prospect who is a leader for a football team. I think that is important for Cincinnati. They've been looking for a leader. They found one in Joe Barrow, an Ohio guy as well, which is something that is very important for a franchise that's kind of struggled. So obviously, like, the Bengals are going back to their traditions, like the Anthony Munoz era, the Ken Anderson, the Boomer Esiason years. They're going retro with a face of new. But the Bengals have to capitalize on their success, because under Zach Taylor, they have to learn how to close out games. I mean, over the last 2 years, the Bengals have held the lead at some point in 24 of their 32 games, despite only winning a total of 6 of those games in 2 years combined. So they have to learn how to close out games because they've had the lead at some point. It's not like they've just been blown out from the start. So they keep losing games that they're in, and that kind of has to do a lot with the coaching staff. I mean, no team since at least 2000 has led in more games in a 2-year span, but one fewer than Zach Taylor. So there is still some promise there, but he's got to start capitalizing. And if not, his time's going to be run short there. Now, I hope Mike Brown and his staff are taking things pretty seriously. Still need that indoor practice facility though. That's very important. They're the only team that doesn't have one. But the Bengals do have hope for once, which is awesome. Now, are they just going to come out here and win a Super Bowl this year or next year? Probably not. Their goal is just to make the playoffs. Not even just win the division, just make the playoffs. With the NFL expanding their playoffs and adding an extra game during the season, there is some optimism the Bengals could possibly do that. They obviously have some contenders in their division with the Ravens and the Browns. But if the Bengals capitalize on their draft, they could have a really good chance at making the playoffs. But the problem is they have probably the toughest decision in the draft. I mean, the draft, in my opinion, starts with them. Like, they have 4 guys that they could take, and there's really no bad option. Kyle Pitts is supposedly going to be a generational tight end, and every contender in the NFL has a great tight end, whether it's the 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It doesn't matter, all the contenders have a good one. Or could take somebody like Jamar Chase, who is Joe Burrow's #1 target, because obviously he played with him at LSU. He really broke out with Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase has been hyped up as a #1 receiver for the past 2 years, so they could take him to satisfy Joe Burrow. But the problem is they have a bad offensive line. And then there's 2 guys in the draft that they could take, in Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern and Penei Sewell out of Oregon. And both of these guys are kind of hyped up to be a generational offensive lineman as well. So really, the Bengals, in my opinion, if the Falcons don't take Kyle Pitts, could have the toughest decision in the NFL draft. And we're going to look back in a couple of years and we're going to say to ourselves, man, the Bengals made a really good decision and they're going to be contending, or they might be really bad in a couple of years. And we're going to look back and say possibly, man, they should have taken this guy. There is no bad option. It's going to be fascinating to watch who they take. And they probably have the most interesting decision in the first round of the draft for me personally. But if the Bengals can just get that right, they really do have a bright future ahead of them, led by star quarterback Joe Burrow. So let me know what you guys think about the Bengals possibly contending for a playoff spot in the coming years. And what do you think about their new uniforms? That's something I'm very curious to know about. But before the video ends, again, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I'll be giving away a free shirt of your team to 1 subscriber at the end of every week. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications on, and most importantly, comment down below. The winner will be randomly selected, and the best way to increase your chances of winning is to comment on more videos since it's completely random, and hit the notification bell for more uploads. You can follow me on Twitter for live updates on everything happening in the sports world. Thank you for checking out my channel. I will see you in the next video. Peace.